AEW Dynasty in 2026 is in the books. Kenny Omega faced off against MJF for the AEW Men's World Championship. Thekla went against Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship. Plus, we had Cope and Cage face off against FTR for the AEW World Tag Team titles. That and a whole lot more coming up right here on the Mark It Down podcast.
Yeah. I don't know what that was. I'm tired.
Yeah, so am I. Let's go.
Uh-oh.
Yes, boy!
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Fake. We can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined tonight by James DeSanti. Back here once again, this time to review AEW Dynasty 2026, all the way up in Vancouver, Canada. And thankfully, it ended at 12:30-ish because James and I are both exhausted, but we're going to power through this Sunday night, early Monday morning, as we head straight into our main event of the evening, which saw AEW Men's World Champion MJF face off against Kenny Omega for said title. So obviously, James, this was billed as the god of professional wrestling versus the devil, and their gear said and their entrances said as much. I thought it was MJF obviously went all out with it.
He played into it. He absolutely played into it.
He was basically dressed like a Satanist priest with upside down crosses, 666s on his robe. And then he also came up through the Cody Vader on a throne, like almost as if he was ascending from hell, wearing a crown that made him look very much like Loki, to be honest.
Yeah. That's a good call.
Yeah, but between, honestly, MJF's black and red gear and Kenny's white and gold gear, I thought it was very easy, but nicely subtle thing, perfectly subtle thing to do to play into the way they built this match. Before the match started, Bryce Remsburg finally got wise to MJF and checked him for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which MJF then produced from his trunks, and Bryce took it and put it in his pocket. Keep an eye on that.
That's an important tool that'll come in handy later.
Yeah. I was like, I put out a certain point. I was like, oh, we still have Chekhov's table on the outside. I completely forgot about Chekhov's ring.
Yeah. No, you never forget.
Yep. A quick shout out to Canadians for getting a "You Got Hair Plugs" chant to Max at the start of the match.
Bald people and how they deal with it are like one of the last vestiges of being able to make fun of people for their appearance for some reason. As a society, we've all just continued to be like, we need to let loose this aggression somewhere, and we're going to let it out on you.
Yeah, and terrible spray tans, but oh wait, that's also Max.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was a very good match, obviously. This was a classic, I sent you this, James, a classic Kenny New Japan match. He had a lot of those spots, starting with him taking the table out of the timekeeper's area, putting it upside down on a downed MJF as he was on the outside, and then stomping his way through it from the apron. And that's where I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
I like, so much of this match to me felt very New Japan coded for Kenny specifically. Mm-hmm. Lots of fighting for the one-winged angel, which is something that's big in Japan, fighting for finishers, not just hitting it one and done, lots of kickouts and stuff. And obviously the one-winged angel is its own thing. Like, there's its own canon and its own mythology around kicking out with that move,
which we will get into.
I don't think it counts. I'm just saying it now. I don't think it counts. But so much of this felt New Japan coded. It was very strong, lots of just striking and just beating the crap out of each other. Kenny at various points was just straight up swinging, punching, kicking MJF. And MJF was obviously giving it back to him. But this felt like there was a peppering of strong style in there, which I'm not going to complain about. And I really enjoyed the main event. I went into it expecting that Kenny wasn't going to win. personally, between who won the number one contenders match earlier in the night,
Yeah.
between just the realities of where AEW is right now in terms of how hot it is, and MJF being at the forefront of that in a lot of ways. Like, I know they acknowledged it in kayfabe. Oh, MJF has got us all fooled that he's responsible for this. Well, I mean, in large part, yes, he is a big factor in how hot AEW is right now. That's not to say Kenny isn't, but if they've been, firing on all cylinders and Kenny's in the position he's in and MJF is in the position he's in, you don't necessarily need to change that formula. And going into Allin, you probably do just want your biggest heel as champion for your big baby face to get the win. Although after tonight, what the flip. But we'll talk about that too. Overall, very fun main event. I'm coming off of last night where I was covering TNA's Rebellion premium live event. And one of my major complaints for that show was that it was very, very overbooked. And I'd say there was some overbooking, especially with in this match, in this main event, there was some, shenanigans. But I do think it serves the story of who AF is, and it wasn't just done for the sake of getting it done and, up with some zany, wild stuff. I know we're going to delve deeper into the match, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it served the story. I was fairly certain Kenny was going to lose, but I was confirmed with that, not just with Darby Allin winning, but also apparently Tony Khan was on a real fuck Canada tear tonight.
Yeah. What was that?
Damn near every Canadian lost, and the only one who did might have only won because of an injury, which we'll get to later. But
that was nuts.
Yeah. To talk about some bigger spots throughout this episode, we had Kenny hearkening back to Kota Ibushi, hitting the triangle moonsault to the outside, which, as I texted you, you definitely cried when he did that. We also had Kenny hit an avalanche one-winged angel, but he was unable to get the cover because he had been so injured up until that point. Obviously, a lot of attacks to the midsection, them continuing to play off the diverticulitis. So you had that, and MJF ended up rolling out of the ring, so there was no pinfall attempt there. A little bit later in the match, you had MJF hit a crossroads, and then also just it's a crossroads, guys. Just call it that.
I mean, he said it himself. MJF literally called out crossroads before the first failed attempt at it.
Yeah, and then Brian just pretended to not know what he was setting up for, and then Excalibur just didn't call it when he did hit it, but he did call the package pile driver. And in my head, I immediately went, did he just go Cody to Steen back to back?
Right.
That was crazy. To jump towards the end of the match here, Kenny hit 2 V triggers in a row, the second one to placate the crowd, which was really funny. He then went for another knee in the middle of the ring, but this time MJF pulled referee Bryce Remsburg into Kenny's path, and Kenny ended up kneeing him instead. So Bryce is out cold, and MJF then hits a low blow and goes into Bryce's pockets and gets his Dynamite Diamond ring back. MJF then throws the right hand, attempting to hit Kenny with it. Kenny ducks that, gets MJF up on his shoulders, and hits the one-winged angel. But there's no referee to make the counts.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It was about MJF said 15. Excalibur said 15.
Yeah.
I think I saw somebody on the internet say it was about 13. And eventually, another referee, Paul Turner, he comes sliding in, makes the count, and MJF kicks out.
I don't think this is even me being biased. I just don't think it counts towards nobody's ever been able to kick out of the one-winged angel. I don't even think this is the first time that something like this has happened, where there was no ref for the count and then a ref comes in late and then they kick out of it. I think this might be the second time or third time that they've used this as a way of somebody kicking out of the one-winged angel.
Okay, but definitely, I don't think it's happened in AEW though.
I don't think so.
Excalibur,
yeah.
Excalibur had said that no one has ever kicked out of a one-winged angel delivered by Kenny Omega in AEW before.
Yeah.
So obviously, this comes with the most extreme of caveats.
Oh yeah, big time. I personally don't count it.
Yes, but at the same time, it allows MJF
to say
have
he kicked
that,
out of it. Yeah,
you know, and I think you could tell he was very grateful after the match because after they counted the 3, he went and said something to Kenny. So
yeah. Well, knowing him, he was saying, "I'm better than you, bitch," something like that. No, did you like the match?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, I was just going to get to the end here. Following that kick out, Kenny brought MJF over to the apron and tried to set him up to put him through the table. But MJF still had the ring on, and he threw a punch with that ring to Kenny's midsection, and that allowed Max to hit a tombstone off of the apron through the table. He then quickly brought Kenny back up to the apron, hit the heat seeker, and then pinned Kenny to retain his championship. And then after the match, he stumbled his way up the ramp with a little bit of help from one of the security guards. And then he sat back down on his throne, put on the crown, and posed with his title as he got lowered back down to Cody Vader to hell.
as he continued, I am the devil.
Yes, which honestly was a great visual to end the show.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed this matchup. It continued a trend that I noticed through a lot of the matches tonight, or not all of them, but definitely the back half of the matches, where they put out a lot of action very early on in some of those matches. Like Ospreay Moxley, there was like an explosive start. Thekla, Jamie Hayter, explosive start. And here too, like you saw Kenny going for the one-winged angel probably within the first 2 minutes of the match. MJF went for that heat-seeking missile or the heat seeker within probably the first 2-3 minutes of the match. And yet all of those matches went around 20 minutes or so. The quickest match of the night was the trios match. And again, very real possibility that there was an injury there that they had to call an audible.
Yeah, and whether that was for the title change itself or just them changing the finish of the match to finish it up, like, we don't know yet. We're still looking and waiting for reports on that.
So I noticed that a lot throughout the night, and I was expecting it in the main event, and it worked. I think these guys, like, I think this being the second time they've wrestled one-on-one, it continues to show something that we've discussed here on the pod at length, which is that MJF is like a chameleon in the ring. I think you said that specifically on our Dynamite coverage. He can adapt to so many different styles and make it feel so natural. Like, he was hitting poison ranas in this match. He was going, like, go ahead.
I was just he hit that. He hit a "you can't escape," or he tried to. He didn't hit the moonsault, but he landed on his feet. I didn't know he could do either of those things to the point where I was like, I feel like we've only scratched the surface of how good MJF actually is in the ring, because he's always wrestling heel and he doesn't really get to do a lot of those cool, fun, high-flying moves. Yeah. And I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying a second ago, where I think a lot of the matches tonight started so quickly and then slowed down because almost every champ is a heel right now.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of the face is, gets the jump quickly and then the heel grinds it to a halt.
Yep.
And MJF did that a little bit, but he also did hit some crazy high spots just because that's what he and Kenny wanted to do. And like I said, like you said, like they had like a New Japan, almost a little bit of strong style match. And I thought it came out great.
I'd agree. I think Kenny, I'm a little frustrated that they went so at length about Kenny's as close to 100% as he's going to get. He looks amazing. Doc Sampson talked about it on Wednesday. He said it. Everybody said it. Kenny's good. We don't got to worry about the diverticulitis. And yet we still saw it actually be an issue. Of course, MJF targeted the abdomen on several occasions. That makes sense. But it really came into play after Kenny just overexerted himself near the end of the match. So that was a little frustrating from a story, from a narrative standpoint. But otherwise, I don't really have any complaints about the match. The crowd was super into it.
Yeah, and they were a little spotty sometimes throughout the night, but they were definitely into this one.
Yeah, I think they were loud when they needed to be loud.
Yeah.
And I think they were loud here, and they were very much rooting for Kenny. And going back to a point you made, too, about MJF and feeling like we haven't really scratched the surface, I'm glad that Brian on commentary pointed out something that I said last week or whenever, that it's like, I didn't like Kenny's promo, or not that I didn't like his promo, but I didn't like the part of his promo where he kind of undersold MJF's wrestling ability.
Yeah,
because we've seen time and time again how good MJF is. And even Brian called Kenny out on that, where he's just like, I think Kenny's underestimating him, because we've seen in so many different scenarios just how well MJF is able to deliver. So I thought that was nice. I'm glad that they we're kind of shying away from the narrative that MJF is not a good wrestler. It's just everybody gets frustrated that he continues to use shortcuts when he doesn't need to.
Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit, that where at the end there, where I think the story was, at least the way commentary was presenting it, that MJF couldn't beat Kenny Omega and then had to use a shortcut. Even though obviously he wrestled a great match against Kenny and he looked like he could hold his own, commentary was definitely sounding the point that he had to use those underhanded tactics to eventually beat him, because very clearly a now 100% Kenny Omega would beat MJF straight up. And he did. Realistically, he did.
He did have him beat. And it raised the question. They said, like, yes, the history books will say MJF beat Kenny Omega, but will MJF be able to really sleep at night knowing that he couldn't beat Kenny Omega on his own? You know, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. But I like that touch. Look, I said it before. I do think Kenny has one more title reign left in him.
Same.
I didn't think it was going to start here, and that's fine with me. Well done. Kenny brought out some really good stuff. I loved, and I know that you texted me about it. I loved the homage to Kota Ibushi, that diving moonsault out of the ring. That was great. Both men brought, I think, their A game to this match, and I enjoyed it. And now I have to acknowledge the fact MJF has beaten everybody there is to beat. All the major names in AEW, or even were once AEW. The current WWE champion, Cody Rhodes, he's beaten. The current world heavyweight champion, CM Punk, he's beaten. Kenny Omega, he's beaten. Hangman Adam Page, he's beaten. Darby Allin, he's beaten.
Ospreay.
Will Ospreay, he's beaten. Jack Perry, he's beaten. Chris Jericho, he's beaten. I'm not saying, oh my God, what else is there left for him to do? But there is a level of, oh my God, what else is there left for him to do?
Top of my head, the two guys I thought of immediately were Okada and Copeland.
See, mine was Swerve.
Yeah, Swerve has to be on there as well. Good call. And then just in terms of, like, especially like not older guys, but guys who have been around the block for a while, that he could be. And then at some point, I would love to see him versus Takeshita as well.
Yeah,
but
I feel like that definitely happened. I feel like that match definitely happened during MJF's first title reign, or maybe when he was international champion. But yeah, no, it's different now. I agree. Like, it is different now, but still, he beat him. I think. I am fairly certain MJF beat Takeshita at some point. So it's like another name to add to the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, MJF has beaten so many people. And look, they have been building him this way for a reason. Like, he is an asshole about it in character, but he really is that good. He really has been a bit of a prodigy since he has started in AEW. There's a reason Cody picked him to be his guy.
Yeah.
And they have built him up and perfectly built him up to be probably the most protected wrestler they have.
Yeah. And I'm always conflicted sometimes on things like that, where it's like, oh my God, does one guy need all of that? Like the big one in WWE right now for me is Gunther. Like, does he need all of those wins? But it is undeniable to say that giving someone a resume like that is the best way of propelling them on another level of superstar.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's got a lot of time. He just turned 30.
Yeah, he said he's going to do this at least another 20 years.
Yep.
God willing.
God willing. And I'm rooting for him. I am rooting for him. So let's see what else could come up. But very impressive career so far and great showing from both men. I don't know where Kenny goes from here. I'm going to be real. I don't know what Kenny can do next. I wouldn't be opposed. I know this is a little left field. I wouldn't be opposed to Kenny teaming with Hangman again.
Could be fun. I don't know what Hangman's mental state's going to be like when he comes back.
I mean, if anybody's used to that, it's Kenny.
Yeah.
He dealt with it the first time. And now that now that Hangman can't go for the title again, and Kenny's probably, back of the line for the title again, I wouldn't be opposed to that. And it sounds crazy, but full circle, they could get their win back over FTR. But I'm thinking way long term. Let's get back to the show, and good main event.
Let's say hello to Maria, rocking with us this early Monday morning.
Hi, Maria.
Who thought Dynasty was amazing. Also bring up Jericho never faced Swerve. Yes, that is a good point. I'm sure that could be something in the future. Yeah.
Chris Jericho doesn't wrestle. Like, I thought about it. Like, why Ricochet? Oh, Ricochet is one of the most talked about people in wrestling right now. Of course, that's why Jericho is wrestling. So, yeah, Swerve is a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. She said MJF is the best heel in wrestling, and you have to build your top guy to the highest point that you can. So, and I would agree. I think MJF, like I said, they have built him to be their guy. He's one of the cornerstones. And I think when he was feuding with Hangman, like, they made a really good point where he's just like, it's like the spy versus spy meet. Like, you know what I mean? He's just anti-Hangman.
Yep.
And they protect the both of them so well because they are the two guys they've really, truly kind of built the company around. We all call Hangman the main character. If he's the main protagonist, then MJF is the main antagonist.
Yep, 1,000%. Well put.
We're also saying the tag division does not have enough teams.
I do think they're a little more padded than they have been in a while, but I do think a good shakeup isn't the worst idea. Like, I mean, you have the Dogs, you have the Rascals, you have some formation of Bang Bang Gang. You have, I think there's depth. I just think it needs to be shaken up a bit where you get some big wins on a team to build them up again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think there's depth. I think it's just not very top heavy.
Yeah.
There's like only a few teams where you're like, especially with FTR being the champs right now, there's only a couple teams where you're going to be like, oh, they could take the titles off.
See, I dealt with that again last night with TNA. The Hardys finally lost the TNA tag titles. Ooh. And they were the System, which was Brian Myers and Bear Bronson. And I'm happy for Bear Bronson. I am.
Like Bear.
But it was one of those things that we had gotten to a point where the Hardys had beaten pretty much every team in the division. They were just starting to like makeshift people to give them challengers. And if they had gotten to be the longest reigning team, it would have needed to be a huge moment for whoever did it. And with the way they did it last night, where the Righteous had taken the Hardys to the limit on Thursday in a very hardcore match, and then the Hardys were weakened for the System. On one hand, it's just like the System did it, like like Kurt Hawkins did it. But on the other hand, it's like now the tag team division gets reset and everyone's on an equal playing field.
Yeah.
So I think that's the case here. where whoever does take the titles off of FTR, we're going to see a nice reset for the tag division, where it's going to feel a lot more open and certain teams aren't going to feel automatically disqualified from even being a potential realistic contender.
Yeah. Let us also not forget the Hurt Syndicate is back in business. So you have,
and they do hurt people.
Yes, as possible contenders as well. But I think we all think that FTR is probably going to retain these titles to All In just so that we can get whatever this version of TLC they're probably building up with CNC, the Bucks, and FTR.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. So that was the main event. Let's head to the top of the show, do a quick 0 hour recap. I don't know how much of this you saw, James, if any.
I did. I watched it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. We opened with Windsor versus Marina Shafir. Good match, very hard hitting. Windsor ended up winning with a driver of some sort, which looked really nasty after she delivered some headbutts to Marina. And Marina apparently has this thing now where she laughs after she loses because she did the same thing on Collision as she did tonight after taking the pin. She was just laughing her ass off. So I don't know what character development that is, but it was a decent way to open the show. We also had Kamille return tonight. She earlier in the night attacked Willow Nightingale as she was being interviewed by Renee Paquette, and that prevented Willow from defending her TBS championship in an open challenge tonight. Kamille faced off against Big Ann. I'm not kidding. That was her name.
No, God bless you for saying it with a straight face.
Yep. She won it in about a minute. She had a torture rack and then spun her out into a power bomb, which was pretty cool. And then after the match, Willow came out with her shoulder all taped up, and there was a referee and some medical personnel trying to keep her from getting into the ring. And the hesitation caused by the two of them allowed Kamille to attack Willow, and she just whooped her ass and eventually took Willow down with a big pump kick and just put her on her ass. And then during the actual main pay-per-view, we had a backstage promo from Willow where she called out Kamille, saying that if Kamille wants her to spoil her comeback, as she has for so many others, then they can make that happen on Wednesday, even if Willow knows she's not going to be 100%. And then Tony made the TBS Championship match official for Dynamite Spring Breakthrough. So we'll have that coming up on Wednesday. Following that, we had Jungle Jack Perry versus Mark Davis for the AEW National Championship. This actually low-key slapped.
Yeah.
This is a sneaky banger. Jack retained by hitting a Hurricane Rana and then hooking both the legs to keep Davis down for a 3. The one thing I found weird about this match is they finally paid off Jack hitting a pile driver on a big dude. Like they've been teasing that for a while, and he finally hit it, and it wasn't the finish.
It shouldn't have been the finish, just because it's one of these things. Like the moment is bigger than the actual pin, and if he's gonna start pinning people off pile drivers, do it all the time. So it was more. He did it. That's great. He couldn't beat the guy with him, but he did it.
Yeah, and I think also they wanted to protect Davis a little bit because he got pinned, but he got pinned with like a roll up as opposed to like being actually taken out. But it was a really good match, and Jack took a nasty power bomb on the apron.
Yeah,
during this, I don't know how he didn't get the wind knocked out of him. It was brutal looking. And then the final 0 hour match was a Divine Dominion, the tag champs Megan Bayne and Lena Cross defending the titles against Hyan and Maya World. Bayne and Cross ended up winning by taking out World with a big boot suplex combo, and then they hit Hyan with a double choke slam to retain their titles. And it was a good match.
Way more competitive than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I can see why Tony is high on Maya World and Hyan. Like they've been doing apparently a great job in Ring of Honor, but he always seems to get them at least on 0 hour for the pay-per-views. And Bayne and Cross are really starting to find their form together as a tag team. They're really starting to gel.
No, I agree. It was funny to me because I meant what I said, that this was a more competitive match than I thought it would be. But commentary also is just like, look at this dominant team that is Divine Dominion. I don't think there's any team in AEW right now that could beat them. And all the while, the other two women are putting up more of a fight than that would have been expected. And commentary had to walk it back a little bit, which I thought was hilarious. But the two of them are definitely showing great chemistry. Cross and Bayne, and they're presenting themselves as a team. You know, it doesn't feel like two women that are just together. This feels like a team, and they feel dominant together. So I'm all for it. It doesn't feel like Megan Bayne and her +1, which, let's all be honest, we all love Penelope Ford. It did feel that way at times.
Yeah, I think part of it helps just because Cross is on her level in terms of like height and strength and stuff.
Yep.
Like they feel like they should be tagging together.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. We saw them face off with each other at House of Glory a few years ago. Like they have a very similar style, and they just kick the shit out of each other then. 100%. And now they're just kicking the shit out of everybody else together. And so I think they're a perfect tag team, and probably one of the best gelling tag teams I think so far in AEW. But the Birds are coming up, and the Sisters of Sin actually work together very well also.
Yeah.
Maria with a couple comments here on the pre-show saying that Jack took a beating. He did. And I love Mark Davis. I thought he had a great showing tonight. And he's another guy, and we've mentioned this before. He might be losing, but Tony is giving him shots, and he's going to get some wins soon.
Yep.
And I know, obviously, because he was in this match, I thought maybe he would have been a guy you could have possibly put the TNT title on. I know we were kind of joking about that, but I think it would have worked. But he will get his shots. And hopefully he ends up winning another title soon.
Yeah, let's not forget, he did win the Trios title very recently. And maybe it's easy to forget because that title is being hot potatoed a lot. But yeah, he's going to get another one very soon. I feel it.
I agree. Maria also comparing Divine Dominion to the female Road Warriors. I like that.
I see it. I see it. If they want to put shoulder pads on, if they want to put shoulder pads on, I'm not going to complain.
With all due respect, I don't think they need the shoulder pads. Their shoulders are pretty, they're pretty strong there. Hey, what up, Daniel? How's it going, dude?
What's up, buddy?
Appreciate you rocking with us.
Are you still on the West Coast?
Oh yeah, that's true. He might be West. Forgot about that. Just absolutely, completely diming on him and where he is.
And I didn't get I just said West Coast. It's a long coast.
It's true. I mean, technically, this show was on the West Coast. It was just the West Coast of Canada.
When you're right. That's why he was. That's why he was there. He was in Vancouver. I bet.
Also, I usually am right. All right, moving to the main show, we ended up opening up with the Young Bucks facing off against Don Callis family members Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. And this felt like a real throwback AEW thing, opening up with the Bucks having a 5-star banger. It was great. Now, interesting to note, because it's going to come up again a couple of times, that Cardi piece of shit Don Callis was on commentary. And that got very interesting when Okada and Takeshita accidentally took each other out with some of their big moves. Okada accidentally hit a Rainmaker on Takeshita. Takeshita accidentally hit a power drive knee on Okada. Now, I think those happened in the other order, but you get what I mean. Yeah. Eventually, Okada was singled out after Takeshita was taken out on the outside, and he got hit with a BTE trigger, but he kicked. So the Bucks then set him up for, I don't know if we're a Melter or TK driver anymore. So whatever, they're setting him up for that. And Takeshita's on the floor, and hearkening back to a certain AEW World Championship match, he grabs Nick's foot.
Yep.
And just waits and looks at him and looks at Okada, who's still in the pile driver position, and looks at Nick, and he just goes, and lets the foot go.
I'm out.
He lets the foot go, and then the Bucks hit the Melcher / TK driver to pick up the win. And then after the match, Takeshita got in the ring, flipped off Okada, and then went up the ramp as Don left commentary, freaking out. He was like, "What happened? I need to see a replay."
Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you watch it again?
He got in the ring and he briefly checked out Okada, and then he just started flipping out, and he's kicking the ropes and everything. So, James, this was a banger.
Yes.
Just front to back, amazing. Obviously, because the Bucks are they're showing everybody again why they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. You throw them in there with, Takeshita, who is at the peak of his game right now, and somebody they have a lot of chemistry with in Okada. You weren't going to get much better than this tonight. And
Oh, no.
Of course, Tony is a sicko and opened the show with it.
Arguably one of the most fun matches of the night, if not the most fun match of the night.
Especially because we got comedy comedy Okada again, because
stealing the gear.
He will always get Nick Jackson's gear on no matter what.
Death taxes, Okada stealing Young Bucks gear. I had fun with this match. It reminded me of what I said, I think, this last Wednesday, where I was like, can you just imagine if these two actually were on the same page, how unbeatable they'd be? And we saw that very early on, where they were working together.
Yep.
Very early on in the match, and they were dominant in working together.
They even shook hands. They didn't initially at the start of the match, but then eventually, after taking the Bucks out for a bit, they decided to shake hands.
Yep.
But obviously, that later broke down, not only with the two of them hitting each other with those big moves, but even before that, they got into the fist fight in the middle of the match.
Yeah, I mean, the slap fight was the best part.
When they were in the sharpshooters,
when at one point the Bucks each had a member of the opposing team in a sharpshooter, and Okada, I guess, looked for a second like he might have tapped out, and Takeshita grabs his arm, stops him, and then slaps him in the face, which does something to Okada because his face just changes, and he starts slapping Takeshita, and they're just going back and forth, slapping each other in the face while locked in stereo sharpshooters. Fun bit. And I'm going to push back a little bit on Maria here, who says we don't need comedy Okada. Stop it. I agree to a point, but I disagree in the sense Okada is at his best when he is a smarmy asshole. And this goes back to his time in New Japan as well. When he was the Rainmaker defending the IWGP title against people like Naito and Tanahashi and Kenny Omega, he was the smarmy, I know I'm better than you douchebag. And he played that for laughs on occasion. So I think as long as he doesn't ever go too deep in that direction, it's fine. But I think he works best when he's got a little bit of comedy peppered in too.
Everyone, whether it was Twitter or Blue Sky or Reddit, everyone just was posting, "Ain't I a stinker?" after he put on Nick's gear, and like that's what he does. He's almost like Bugs Bunny levels of funny sometimes, where he just pulls like shit like that. And between you have stuff like that and like the backstage stuff where when he was with the Elite and he did like, "Oh no, I pushed the wrong button," like that thing. Like
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Even this past week on Dynamite, when he went to Takeshita, he was like, "I'm Jordan and you're Pippin." It was pretty funny. Like he said it seriously, but his delivery is hilarious. So like he's a funny dude and he wants to be a funny dude, as everyone always says. He is a comedy wrestler trapped in the body of one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And he's gonna pepper in the comedy, but he's also gonna go out there and continue to have matches like this.
Exactly. Do you think, I meant to ask this on Wednesday, do you think the Pippin reference at all tracks for somebody from Japan? Like, do you think they have any like real comprehension of Scottie Pippen?
So Okada, I would probably guess.
I would say Okada would, but I don't think Takeshita would.
You have to understand something about the 90s Bulls. They transcended basketball.
And I know that. But a lot of that had to do with Jordan. I don't want to say all of it or most of it, but a good chunk of that had to do with the legendary.
Yes, it was between that, and you also had the Dream Team back in the day, but it was Jordan. But then like everyone knew who like fucking Horace Grant was, just because they were on the Bulls. Like everyone loved the Bulls.
It made me think.
Played in Japan, I think, once or twice.
Like, would Takeshita be offended at the Scottie Pippen reference IRL? I don't know.
Anybody who gets called Scottie Pippen and gets offended by it is an idiot. Scotty
What would-
is one of the greatest defenders of all time, and top 75 NBA
But
player
the
ever.
implication being you're the number 2.
Yes.
That's the implication. It's like in wrestling speak, it's you're the Marty Jannetty.
No.
But I understand. All right, fine. It is the Christian to Edge.
Yeah. I
Right?
guess.
Like I think that's fair. I
think there are plenty of people who would say that Christian is better than Edge.
I'm sure there is a handful of people who think Pippen was being held down by Jordan. But regardless, not the point of what I was going for.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think again, even though Takeshita is younger, Michael Jordan just transcends everything.
yeah, Jordan
and
for
everybody.
sure.
And
Jordan.
but because of that, the 90s Bulls do. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure everyone watched The Last Dance during the pandemic because there was nothing else on.
Yeah.
So
all right, let's go comments real quick.
yep,
Unless you have more to say
I
about
got him. Apparently, Danny is in the airport on a certain side of, well, he said the country, and then he goes a country. So he's around. Have a safe flight, dude. Be safe. Maria's saying we got the old school Bucks tonight, and I feel like we've ever since they've obviously turned face and gone back to the tie dye and the tassels, we've gotten old school Bucks for a lot of their matches. But this is, like I mentioned, very early AEW's coded, where they would just roll the Bucks out against whomever, and they would just throw out a 5-star PWG banger to start the show and get the crowd hyped. Some more stuff from Danny here. I heard James is going to WrestleMania and All In this year. That's pretty cool.
If I go to All In, that's news to me.
It's like 6 out of 10 cool.
I would love to go back to London, but I don't think that's happening. But we all do got to figure out Double or Nothing very soon, please. Please, can we figure out Double or Nothing? This is to Daniel. This is to Rev. Can we figure out Double or Nothing?
Yeah, we'll work on it. Danny also saying, honestly, if Okada isn't going to be world champion, he's better off being like this.
I agree.
Yeah, and even if he is world champion, like maybe he dials back the comedy a little bit, but he's still going to be that smarmy, ain't I stink asshole. That's his best character. Maria saying, if Japan knows who Robin is, they know who Pippen is.
That feels so mean to so many people.
I'm now trying to think of like, okay, since everyone always refers to Pippen as Robin, I was like, so I guess when he went to the Trailblazers is his Nightwing arc. And to be fair, I think they both dealt with the same amount of criminals when they did so. They just, for those of you who don't get it, the Jailblazers, look them up.
Yeah.
Danny saying, I think it was more like the Randy to Cena. Okay.
They were never a team. That's the only reason why. But yeah.
Also saying Christian is unmistakably better than Edge.
I know it's become very easy to just dunk on Adam Copeland, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that when he was at his absolute peak, he wasn't one of the biggest deals in wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, hang on, no, because this is going to bother me. Yes, so because Maria was saying if Pippen was not drafted by the Bulls, nobody know who's he is. I am going to disagree, and B, he was technically drafted by the Supersonics and then traded on draft day to Chicago.
I was waiting for that comment to be addressed. But anyway.
Well, Kobe wasn't drafted by the Lakers.
Yeah, that I knew. That I knew.
He was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, and then Jerry Rush traded for him. I thought, who did he trade? He traded Vlade Divac, I think, actually, and a couple other dudes, and then he signed Shaq.
Woof.
Yeah, it was good. That was good.
A foresight.
Danny saying Edge was great. Christian never stopped being great. Edge is still pretty great. I just think Christian also had a lot more opportunity. Edge obviously had to stop wrestling for a lot longer time than Christian did.
Yeah. And Christian also gets the rub of I went to TNA and I got to present myself as this underdog who was being held down and proved myself on another playing field as being great. And
he was the original Cody. It's just that when he came back, Vince didn't give a shit.
He was the original Cody who, when he went back, got treated like Matt Cardona.
Yeah, it's Christian. I always feel bad for that announcer. He's told that story on CVV. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yep. Let's move on to some Canadians. Some more Canadians, I guess, as we had Chris Jericho in his first match back, facing off against Ricochet in what was surprisingly a much better match than I thought it was going to be.
I mean, look, let's be real. Jericho came back in great shape.
Yeah, he looks really good.
He looked better now than he's looked in a long time. And obviously, like, looking good is only half of it. Like, you need to be able to actually physically move too. And Jericho did. He was moving. It's not like he's in his 30s anymore, but like, or even his 40s anymore, but he was going at a good pace.
Yeah, I agree. He hit the lion salt. I think I saw some people talking about this. I think he's going to start shifting the way he wrestles now because he knows he's older. He'll hit some of those big high spots when he has to, but you could tell like he was just hitting chops and the crowd was going like crazy over for him because it's Chris fucking Jericho. Yeah. So I think he can start working a little more like Sting and get away with it, and people will love him.
Throwing himself through tables, diving off of.
He did do the dive.
Yeah, he did do the dive. He did do the dive. Officially, he's Jericho, but commentary occasionally drops the Chris.
He dropped the Chris on Wednesday.
He called himself Chris?
Yeah, when he did the list. He said, do you know what happens when Chris Jericho doesn't have an opponent? He's been doing that for 40 years. I'm not surprised he fucked it up. I don't know why.
I also just think it's dumb. Yeah, I just think it's dumb. Like, I get, like, the musician thing of having just one name.
Yeah.
Like, which is definitely what he's going for. But I nobody gives a shit.
Completely shocking to me. Jericho just hasn't been a symbol at one point or another.
Yeah.
To get to the end of the match here, let's see. Ricochet went up to the top rope and tried to hit a shooting star press, and Jericho picked him out of the air with a fucking code breaker.
Oh, perfect timing.
Oh, it was awesome. And then Ricochet,
he was down. He was down, got up at the perfect placement to hit it and drop perfectly. Like, everything worked with this.
Yeah, it was a thing of beauty. It was one of the weirdly few moments of the night where I looked up and went, "Oh fuck!" You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's in AEW pay-per-views I do that at least 10 times a night. Not as much tonight, weirdly enough. Like, everything was great, but I don't know. It was kind of missing that like extra little overdrive.
That wow factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
I had when Kenny hit the avalanche, One Winged Angel.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like I went, oh fuck. I literally texted you in all caps. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
But that was one of them tonight. Anyway, after Ricochet kicked, Jericho got the walls in, but Bishop Khan jumped up on the apron to distract the referee, which happened quite often throughout this match. Yeah. And then Leona was able to pull Ricochet over to the ropes. We then had a bunch of stuff with Jericho trying to fight off the Gates of Agony, and that included him doing the dive off of the top rope onto all three men. He also ended up hitting Bishop Khan with a Judas effect after he had thrown Leona into the barricade, but Leona quickly bounced back because he is a beast and booked as such, and just ran Jericho over and basically knocked him into the stairs. Leona then threw Jericho into the ring, and Ricochet was able to hit the shooting star press this time, but Jericho kicked out. So then Ricochet hit him with the spirit gun, and Ricochet was gonna pin Jericho, but Leona stopped him, and he goes, no. You should rub it in his face. So Ricochet then hit a lion salt and then pinned Jericho to pick up the win. Now,
I was flabbergasted.
Very shocking finish. Obviously, for multiple reasons. One, Ricochet using the lion salts to win, but two, Jericho.
Go ahead.
I would say Jericho just losing in general here was very surprising. But
I'm not
proud of him for doing the job and putting Ricochet over.
But that's the thing. He is doing everything he can to reset himself with the crowd. Like, he even said it on Wednesday. He was just like, not everything I did has always worked. Sometimes there are some stinkers, and I've had some stinkers. I don't think he's trying to, like, humiliation ritual himself to humble himself. But I do think he's trying to say, look, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to be a part of AEW and make AEW as good as it can be. If that means I got to take some losses, I'm going to take them. And the crowd was chanting Jericho. The crowds have been chanting Jericho. And granted, they've been in Canada. Let's see what happens when we get back to the States.
Yeah,
but
it was his only native land.
Yeah. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's still going to be getting... I hate you. They're still going to be cheering him. And considering we were getting please retire chants a year ago, that's a hell of a turnaround. So he's handling this return beautifully, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm cool with this. I'm cool with this. I think we can count on one hand how many times a wrestler has been beaten with their own finisher. It does not happen often. It's like it's a very rare thing that happens. Yes, wrestlers will get hit with their own finisher or their own move, but it's very rare that they get pinned by it or get beaten by it. So this was a big moment. And maybe Ricochet just starts doing the lion salt.
Maybe. I also think, too, they talked about it and sold it pretty well on commentary, where I think Shivani he beat him with his own move, and then Excalibur was very quick to couch it with, did he, though? Like, he probably beat him with the spirit gun, and then he was just rubbing it in his face. Now,
for sure, but it doesn't matter. Like, he still did it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of times when guys do get beaten with their own move, it is the situation where it's more of a humiliation thing than, wow, he actually beat him with his own move straight up and down. Like, he did his move better than him.
Yeah.
So, as far as Jericho goes, I like what he did here tonight. Ricochet is pretty hot right now, in terms of where he is with the crowd and everything. And I thought Jericho had a really good match, but yeah, I'm kind of going the same direction, Danny, where it kind of feels like a trap, even though he's doing the right thing right now. I think it kind of depends on where he goes from here. Does this now lead to a Ricochet feud?
That's the thing. I hope not.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I think Ricochet should take this win and run.
Yep.
And Jericho should move on to something else. Because, granted, we've only had now 3 appearances from Jericho since his return. And one of them was him just telling everyone he was home. Yep. The other one was last week where he did the list of Jericho, so everyone popped. And now this. And like Danny said, he's doing the right thing so far, but it's only been 3 times.
Yeah.
And I did not mean to do the demand thing on purpose. It's just how I did it. So we'll see where he goes from here. And I agree with you. Hopefully this is the end between him and Ricochet, and we don't have a 6-month feud between the two of them. A couple other comments here. Maria saying a lot of Canadians lost tonight. Yeah, Tony Khan was on a real fuck Canada kick. I think I mentioned that.
He doesn't usually do that, which is weird. He usually I don't think you should have major changes based off like hometown kids. Yeah. But shocking amount of hometown people not getting wins.
Yeah, and granted, we'll just say home country because I don't think any or except for Kyle. Kyle's from Winnipeg. The rest of them are not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a lot of Canadians losing tonight.
Isn't Orange Cassidy Canadian too, or am I making that up?
I actually don't know because he's from wherever.
Yeah, fair enough.
You can check where Fire Ant's from. You might be able to find that out. I'm sure it's some sort of colony. Danny's saying here, Hayter versus Thekla was awesome. I very much enjoyed that. We'll get there shortly. Maria calling that code breaker off the SSCP perfect. I agree. Best one he's had in a long time. We also say what up to Fernando. What's all going on, dude? Who said Dynamite was fire. I'm presuming you meant Dynasty, but same thing.
He could be talking about last Wednesday, which was the fire episode.
Yes, or he's in the future. In which case, don't spoil. He also said Jericho is the GOAT of reinvention and asked Action Andrade about beating Jericho.
Not wrong. I actually, this is going to sound nuts. now that Leo Rush has gone crazy, and Crew is over, I do think Action Andretti would be a good fit with the Demand, personality-wise.
Yeah, actually. And I think Ricochet initially rejected him, but having a mid-card singles, I guess Ricochet is kind of mid-card, but he would be their perfect pin eater because they really want to protect Leona, and they do a decent job of protecting Khan, but he usually ends up eating a lot of the pins unless Ricochet gets pinned due to a story reason, like recently with Jungle Jack. But yeah, like Andrade could be a guy to eat some more pins and protect GOA a little bit more. Also send him for the tag titles at some point again. Danny saying the first Canadian crowd was super quiet. I think we mentioned this earlier. Like, this crowd was loud when they were super invested, especially when a Canadian was in a match. Like this Jericho match, they were very loud. The main event, they were very loud. The Cope and Christian match, they were very loud. But there were certain points where I thought they could be louder, like most of the women's matches. So they were okay.
They were dead for Thekla and Hayter.
Yeah, right. It made no sense. I thought that was a bang, and I mean banger. Like, that was a slobber knocker. They beat the shit out of each other. That's why I liked it. But we'll get to that shortly. In the meantime, we'll head to our next match. Which saw Andrade El Ídolo face off against Darby Allin in a weird one-sided number one contenders match. So if Darby won, he got a shot at the winner of the main event, which obviously ended up being MJF. If Andrade won, cool. I think maybe he got paid, or he got paid more by Max. I don't know. They didn't really specify.
If Andrade wins, cool.
Tranquilo.
You're not wrong. That's exactly what it is. That's funny.
I will say, notable by his absence, no carny piece of shit Don Callis on commentary for this one.
At all tonight, right?
No, well, he was in the first match for Okada and Takeshita.
Yes, you're right.
He was there for them.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I don't think he after Andrade, he didn't really have anybody else in the family competing outside of the Casino Gauntlet match, and I don't think he would have been down there for that just due to the nature of the match, unless he came out halfway through with I think El Colon might have been the only guy from the family to be in it. But it's still very notable by his absence that he was not here for this Andrade match, which I think kind of will come around to what happened afterwards. But that being said, these dudes took some hard bumps in this match, especially on the outside.
They were stiff, and I'm proud of Darby for getting some redemption on that drop kick to the outside with the chair. Because I know it didn't go over well for him the first time. But my God, like, for a non-hardcore match, that Darby looked like he was in pain.
I think he cut his lip at some point, pretty badly.
So when Andrade superplexed him to the outside, you remember that?
Yeah.
That's when I think he did it. I think he bit his lip or something, or bit the inside of his mouth. Because that's when he started bleeding.
Maybe it was his tongue.
Yeah, and then
I know Roman does that sometimes.
Commentary said something along the lines of, I hope he doesn't have internal bleeding. And I'm like, because blood's coming out of his mouth. I'm like, why would you put that out there? Because if that's the case, stop the goddamn match. Don't make us think that.
Yeah, and honestly, too, he took that tope. It was right before the chair drop kick where he did that tope suicida, and Andrade caught him as well as he could, but Darby, he goes so fast through the air, he kept going. He went back first to the bottom of the announce desk.
That was
Darby.
rough.
Yeah, they were taking some crazy fucking bumps in this match. We also had one of the cooler moves of the night, another oh fuck moment for me, where Darby, they were up on the top rope and he hit that reversal from the top rope, like they did the backflip, and Darby got the crossface.
And then he got him into the crossface. That was the placement on that was incredible.
Yeah,
and I under a different circumstance, I would have loved for that to have been the finish.
Yeah, I would think so. I thought the finish to this was actually really good, which we'll get to in a second.
I agree because it helped with the story, which is why, like, if the circumstances were different and this was just a match of Darby's, I think it would have been a great finish.
Yeah, I really want to get into that, but first I want to get into the fact that Andrade once again took his pants off, and Nigel, probably line of the night, saying, "Oh, a woman over there in the first row just fainted. Get this medical out here. Oh no, another one just went down. Where's the medical team?"
I love Brian on commentary, but Nigel just brings something magical too, like he's truly magical.
So he's so cheeky. I'm trying to remember. I think it was during the Copeland FTR match. Yes, because at the very start of the match, the fans started singing "Oh Canada," and I think they sang the whole thing. And then FTR started beating the brakes off of Cope and Christian. And Nigel, who, again, I remind you, is British, he was like, "Oh, maybe now we start singing the Star Spangled Banner." And he started singing the first few lines. And I'm like, dude, you're not even from America. But he's such a good fucking heel commentator that
he will trade country allegiances for the heat.
Yes, exactly. To put over somebody with whom he had a feud recently. Yep.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
To get into the end of this match, Darby kicked out of the feint kick into that back elbow that Andrade hits, which I love.
That was just, that was great.
Yeah, it's one of the best moves in wrestling. And so Andrade then picked him up and attempted to hit the DM. However, Darby was able to counter that and locked Andrade into the Last Supper pinning combination, and he was able to use that to keep Andrade down for the 3 and the W.
Yep.
And then after the match, Andrade was visibly frustrated, but decided that he thought Darby was the better man tonight in terms of wrestling-wise, and actually shook Darby's hand and raised it before heading to the back.
Babyface Andrade.
Yeah, it weirdly does kind of feel like that.
I don't know what's weird about it. He's been teasing the face burn for like a month now.
Yeah, weirdly wasn't the definition I should have used there. But this brings me back to the fact that Don wasn't out there.
Yes.
This is something that would definitely frustrate Don, and somebody Andrade has been very frustrated with.
Yeah.
So as I think we're starting to see the cracks in the family between Takeshita allowing Okada to lose the match earlier, and now Andrade, cavorting with the enemy. I think I used that word right. Now, we're slowly starting seeing the cracks to, I don't know if we're going to get the full-blown Don Callis Civil War, especially considering with Kyle being out, it might be, the plans might have changed. But I have seen people mention that maybe Andrade just fucks off.
I wouldn't hate that personally. I could see it's weird because, again, you said it. Fletcher feels so essential to this story. Arguably, he was the glue of the Don Callis family, which crazy. But I don't know. Based off history with the Don Callis family, it's not like he just lets people go without being some level of retribution.
Yeah, there was one guy.
Yeah.
And they ended up going to war with him anyway.
Exactly. So does this mean Andrade and Takeshita end up on the same team? Maybe. But it's not enough considering how big the family is. So I don't know who else you slot there. Not Kenny Omega. But maybe this is how we get somebody who is very heavily featured tonight. Maybe we get Andrade and Rush reuniting. And we get Andrade leading LFI.
Yeah, and because you can eventually then do Rush being annoyed that Andrade came back and usurped him, and you have that feud in the future. That's possible. I can almost see Andrade just looking at Don like, I came here to chase championships, and we're doing MJF's dirty work to keep other people from getting to his championship. Like, why am I not the guy going for the title?
Oh no, I agree on the Andrade motivation. Yeah. But again, there just isn't an instance of Don being like, okay, we're cool. Later.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I think the only way that really happens is if like everyone in the family starts fighting, and then everything kind of happens, and Andrade just kind of sits on the sidelines and does his thing, and then eventually Don literally has no power left, and he can just walk. Like that's the only way I feel like he ends up like walking. But it's going to be interesting to see how Tony plays this with Kyle being out. Like you said, he was kind of the linchpin of this whole thing.
Yeah,
especially with Takeshita and Okada. So Tony we trust, but
supposedly he will be back in time for Allin, according to TK.
Oh, that's very good.
That's okay, awesome. Like that is the hope right now, and it like they seem optimistic about that. So granted, it's still a couple months, but it's not, oh God, a year.
Yeah, and maybe he even comes back before that and just doesn't really get physical until he can maybe do something at All-In. So we'll see what happens there. I do now want to turn the attention to Darby, because there's like a lot of shit talking to Darby in the chat right now. Maria saying that Andrade deserved to win, and Darby is not on the level of the devil, which, all right, that's a fair argument, but we'll find out Wednesday on Dynamite. But Fernando coming in hot, saying that he wouldn't pay 50 cents to see Darby become champion, calling him a glorified backyard wrestler who is not meant for the main event.
All right. We are open to all opinions here, and we will never shut anybody down. I have to fundamentally disagree, though.
As will I.
Now, let me say, on some level, I do agree with Maria's point that Andrade deserves to win the match. I said this going into this show. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. Andrade is just so much hotter than Darby right now. He's
doing some of his best wrestling that I've seen. Ever since he's got back, he is so motivated for whatever reason. And between that and his increased maybe different character work, like he's finally found a great character for himself right now. He's put himself into a different stratosphere.
Everything is working for this guy, and most importantly, the crowd is responding beautifully.
Yep.
So there is a level of me kind of agreeing that Andrade is way more deserving at the moment for accolades and opportunities. Now, I was the first to say, you know what, I'm going to step back on this a little. That promo from Darby on Wednesday turned me around quite a bit. I love that promo, that backstage promo that he cut, where he says, "What if I don't win the title? What was this all for?" I love that aspect. But all in all, I think both of these guys deserve something, and I hope Andrade wins a title sooner than later. I'm pulling for Darby to win on Wednesday. He said later in the night that he's gonna confront whoever the champion is on Wednesday. Let it happen. Shock the world. But
showtime.
Woo. As far as Fernando's comments, we spent earlier, and Fernando, you might not have been here for this, but we spent earlier when we were talking about the main event with MJF and Kenny, how we're at a point now where anytime somebody fails to acknowledge how good a wrestler MJF is, it just feels false at this point, because we've seen time and again how good a wrestler MJF is. And I'd say on a smaller degree, Darby is the same. Yes, we fully acknowledge, Darby fully acknowledges, people want to see him doing the hardcore stuff. It's what gets the crowd going for him. It's what they expect from him. But there have been multiple instances where we've seen that Darby is just actually a great wrestler and not just a spot monkey.
I thought tonight was one of them. I know he had some spot monkey-esque spots, but him and Andrade put on a fucking clinic tonight.
I
very hard-hitting one.
I completely agree. Nobody is saying that Darby Allin should have the longest reign in AEW Championship history. No one is saying that Darby Allin should come across as this super dominant champion. But for somebody who's as popular as he is, has contributed too much to as much as he has to AEW throughout its entire history, and for somebody who consistently, whenever he's thrust into a main event spot or a big spot, delivers, I don't know what qualifications you need to have then at a certain point to be a world champion or to be world championship material. He's a good wrestler. In my opinion, he's gotten way better on the mic, even if it is just that he's better backstage than he is live. I don't know what people don't like about it. Like, I could agree, his style's too hardcore, I'm not crazy about it. He's too small, I can't believe it. I get those things, but we've seen some combination of form of it in other wrestlers over the years that have been world champion that people don't get frustrated with. So, as you say pretty regularly, I'm going to agree with you. Let Darby have the Mick Foley reign.
Yep.
He could win it for a month, if we're being super generous, 2 months, sure. But just let him have it to say he was AEW champion. I've said it before. I don't believe in participation trophy championship runs where, he's been with us for 20 years. Let's give him a title reign. He's earned it. No, I'm not crazy about that. But this is a guy who, on paper, checks so many boxes for what you want out of a world champion. So just do it. Get it over with. If guys don't like it, just move past it.
Yeah, and you borrowed my phrase with the Mick Foley championship reign. I think he's going to get it at some point.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be Wednesday. He's going to lose by a headlock takeover. Damn well he is. I did want to actually read a comment I found on Squared Circle following in the post-match thread, and I'm going to shout the user out too, Bollywood Bulk Bogan, which is a pretty good name, who said, Andrade was wrestling like a man who wants to win, make lots of money, and fuck hot women. Darby was wrestling like a fucking rabid animal. Andrade wants the world title. Darby is actually losing his mind not winning.
It's very good. That is very apt.
And I thought that was the perfect comment. That was the story of this match where, yes, Andrade wants to win, but he wants to win because, it's going to make him more popular. It's going to make him more money. It's going to get him more women. He wants the accolade for what it brings. Darby, he needs the title because he wants to be the face of AEW. And as he mentioned in his promo the other week, you can't do that if you don't have the championship.
Yep.
So, I know Maria again, and Maria, I think I said this a couple of weeks in a row. Darby's not world championship material. I disagree.
Yeah, I do too. I fundamentally do too.
Also, Danny just saw the Conglomeration entrance, and we'll talk about that. But it was perfect.
Yep.
Both of those entrances were perfect. All right. I think also too, you mentioned there briefly, James, Darby calling out the winner of the main events, and I will only just note that Dynamite this week is in Everett, Washington, where he actually learns to wrestle under Nick Wayne's father, Buddy Wayne. I couldn't remember his name there for a second. So that's why he is trying to have that match there. Now, maybe if you're going to pull the trigger on a random title change on a Dynamite for Darby, maybe that's the time and the place. But judging by how Katoni booked all the Canadians tonight, I wouldn't bet on it.
We hit Vince levels of, you live here? How do we humiliate you?
Yeah. Speaking of, our next match is FTR against Cope and Christian for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Now, this was great. It was a great match, but I should note that Christian came out with his arm heavily taped following FTR's attack on Wednesday with the chair. And that also meant that Stokely came out with Christian's watch, which was great. As I mentioned,
bastard.
Yep, the crowd saying, "Oh, Canada." Towards the end of this match, we had a pretty creative belt shot as Cash went into the Timekeeper's area and got the title to use as a weapon. But Christian caught him as he was trying to bring it into the ring. So the two started having a tug of war. While that's happening, Copeland got in a roll-up on Dax. So 1-2 kick out. And as Dax shoves Copeland off of him, Christian lost the grip on the title, and Cash turned around and accidentally brained Copeland with it, which ended up splitting him open.
Somebody put that sequence through slow motion. He got him so bad with the belt. Like, he did not bleed. That was a legitimate busted open. That was a shoot bleed. Wow.
Huh. I thought it added a bit to the match to the point where I thought he did bleed, but damn, that sucks.
Yep.
A little bit later in the match, I think I saw the most creative pin breakup I've ever seen, where Copeland got hit with a shatter machine, and to break the pin up, Christian threw Stokely into the ring.
That was great. Yeah.
And then that led to, I think, Dax thinking that Stokely did it on purpose, and he tried to explain that he didn't. And then that led to a whole bunch of shenanigans. But it was great. We then, a little bit after that, had Christian get taken out when Cash, again, in an attempt to introduce a weapon, grabbed a chair. However, Christian took it from him and went to go hit Cash with it. Stokely then grabbed the chair, so Christian shoved him, and that allowed Cash to turn around and shove Christian and the chair into the ring post, bad arm first. And then Cash took him and tossed him into the Timekeeper's area, and that was the last we saw Christian until the end of the match. To hit the very finish of it, where Copeland was doing a good job fighting back. He ended up, fighting back against in the 2-on situation for a while, but he got into a situation where he was on his knees, and FTR decided this is the time where we should mock the Young Bucks. So they hit a little bit of a super kick party, and then they attempted the FTR trigger.
Sons of bitches.
But Copeland ducked it, and they then banged knees together, and then he hit a double spear. And then a little bit after that, Copeland tried to go again for a spear, but Cash jumped it and then ended up rolling Copeland through, and then used that to basically grab him and pull him back in. And then they hit the Shatter Machine to pick up the dub and retain their titles. After the match, they quickly went up the ramp with Stoke, and Christian got back in the ring with the chair, which briefly made me nervous, but obviously he was checking on Cope, who was pretty much out of it at that point, between getting hit in the head with the title and getting hit with multiple Shatter Machines.
Yeah.
So again, James, very good match. I liked it a lot. The storytelling was interesting. It did, weirdly enough, we know Cope and Christian are one of the best tag teams ever, but up until recently, they hadn't tagged in a while, and then they had the 2 matches, and then they had a long layoff, and this really did feel like almost like a tag team against 2 singles guys.
To an extent, I'll agree. I felt early on they were on the same page. They were hitting a lot of tag moves. They felt a little more in sync. By the end, things had started to deteriorate a little bit. But I don't necessarily feel that it was because they weren't on the same page as much as FTR is just at the top of their game right now.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on Cope and Christian to say that they are 2 older men who are going against arguably the best tag team in the game today. So, maybe they got to loosen up a little bit more for the next one. As Maria put it, the story continues. They are even rubber match at Double or Nothing, titles versus career. Maybe that's the way they go. I do think we are going to get the rubber match soon. I do think we're going to see them go at it, whether it's TLC or whatever it may be.
I still think you need the Bucks in the TLC, but obviously we teased that tonight, so they'll be in it at some point. It just depends on where.
What I would do is I would have Cope and Christian beat FTR at Double or Nothing for the titles, and then All In. Then you do whatever TLC version you're going to get, where you include the Bucks. Maybe if you want to do a fourth team, I don't know who you would put it in, but
I don't know. But what I could actually see end up happening is, maybe whether, I don't know, it would be titles or careers or whatever it's going to be, but I could see Cope and Christian winning the titles at Double or Nothing, and then I'm pretty sure there's another pay-per-view between then and, well, there definitely would be, because that's the end of May, and All In's not till the end of August.
Tony recently confirmed that Forbidden Door will be coming this summer. So I'd imagine Forbidden Door is also going to be before All In.
Yeah. But what you could have possibly is Cope and Christian versus the Bucks for the titles, and then this is going to sound crazy. I don't know if I was going to say maybe you actually get a DQ finish for the first time in forever on a pay-per-view by having FTR interfere.
That'd be nuts.
At minimum, you have to have them interfere.
Yeah,
whether it's to allow the Bucks to win or Cope and Christian to win. They get involved, and that then leads to, you have your TLC equivalent at All In. Or I did see somebody say, Tony does own the words Ladder Wars.
Oh my God, that'd be...
So you could just call it Ladder Wars and just let it be TLC.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I wouldn't say no to that. That'd be nuts. When was the last Ladder War?
I have no idea.
Wow. Okay. Well, you just got
you would know more than I would.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now I'm tingly in certain places. So,
I hear Ladder War, I just think of Steen Generico.
Yeah,
and I'm sure the Briscoes had some crazy ones. I think the Bucks were in a couple as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do that. And like I said, I'm sure you can involve tables and chairs as well. They usually do anyway.
Oh my. Yeah.
Maria saying make the 14 the New Age Outlaws. Well,
yeah,
one of them...
Make it the guns. Make it the guns.
One of them just got let go by WWE, and the other one's already in the company, so...
Yeah.
Although I think the first one can't wrestle anymore. But yeah, I thought this was... I liked the wrestling this a lot.
Yeah,
and
me too.
I think what I was saying at the beginning, where it felt like two singles guys versus a tag team. Maybe I was thinking more of is something FTR said during the promo package, where they said, we're what you want it to be because you guys have split up and fought each other countless times. We never have.
Yeah.
We've been together our whole careers. And that kind of felt like more of what it was, where FTR just has more chemistry because they're constantly together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To Cope and Christian, who haven't tagged in 20 years outside of the last two times they have, or whatever it was when they finally got to tag together recently. Yeah. So that's the story I thought they told. I thought they did a good job of it. And this was just another fuck Canada match, apparently.
Seriously, I don't know what was. I don't know who pissed in Tony's Cheerios today, but he did not want to give the crowd the hometown win.
He must have got a sour bag of milk.
I enjoyed the matchup a lot. I kind of wish that Cope and Christian had just won it, get it out of the way. But I understand FTR needing to get the win.
Yeah.
And again, that belt spot was nasty. It was really nasty.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I hadn't seen the slow-mo.
Yeah, it was rough. But other than that, yeah, fun matchup. Cope did most of the work, I'd say. He was more the workhorse of the team between him and Christian. And not that Christian didn't pull his rank, but the crowd was super into him choking them out on the ropes.
Yeah.
They popped big for that double choke sequence.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny. But yep, looking forward to whatever the rubber match will be, and let's move on because I'm tired.
Yeah, I will say also too, I think Christian is coming off of the surgery as opposed to Copeland, who I think was
but I do
healthy.
think he's good though. I do think he's fine.
Yeah, but it was probably just a little bit easier for him to get back into it. And if you look, and this is something else I'm stealing from Reddit, Christian has gotten a lot work smarter, not harder later in his career.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he is not doing nearly as much if he doesn't have to. But he does a lot of the crafty veteran things, like throwing Stokely into the ring to break up a pin.
That might have been my spot of the match.
It was great. All right, let's hit our next match. We had the TNT Championship Gauntlet match for the vacant TNT title after Kyle Fletcher's injury. You had Tommaso Ciampa in at number 1 following his victory on Wednesday, and then Roosh beat Anthony Bowens to get the second spot. So they ended up starting. I will just run down the rest of the participants who came out. Number 3 was Bandito, and yes, he came out with the ROH title, James, don't worry. We then had Speedball Mike Bailey, Oclone, Pac, Daniel Garcia, Anthony Bowens, Kevin Knight, and then Wheeler Yuta. Some cool sequences throughout this. The Speedball, Bandito, Pac 3-way dance was awesome.
Yeah.
Love that whole sequence.
Felt like a shootout.
Yeah, that was really dope. Bandito hit a 21-plex on Ciampa while Ciampa was on the mat pinning El Colon. I don't know how he got the leverage to do that, but Bandito is
a wild man.
He's just that fucking good. He's a wizard in there, and I know technically that's my man on the Don Callis family, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To get towards the end of this match here, Bandito, this is another fucking crazy thing. He tried to hit a tope con hilo onto a crowd of people on the outside of the ring. So he goes in, starts doing the dive, and as he goes to do it, El Clone is, I don't know if he was on the apron or on the ropes, but he catches Bandito mid-air and gets him into a Spanish fly, and they go into the crowd together. I don't understand the physics of how that works, but it did, and it was insane.
It was hard to keep up with so much of that match, but that was such a fun spot, like such an insane spot.
And it was cool too because it was leading into the ending sequence, so it was given a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I blacked out for a second and almost missed the next spot, which was Ciampa bringing Kevin Knight up to the top ropes, and he hit a superplex into that entire crowd. Well, almost that entire crowd, because Pac somehow dodged both of those moves. So then he took Speedball Mike Bailey and dragged him into the ring, into what Michael Cole would call the splash zone, and ended up hitting the Black Arrow. However, as he went for the pinfall, Ciampa came in and broke that up with the running knee, obviously the exposed knee. And then so he pinned Pac, but that got broken up by Wheeler Yuta. So then Garcia jumped in because Pac was out, and Yuta was dealing with Ciampa. So he locked in the Dragon Tamer on poor Speedball, who now just got hit with a Black Arrow and now has the Dragon Tamer on.
And he locked it in.
Yeah.
He really synced that in.
Yeah, Garcia really wrenched it in, like you say, leaned back. It looks like Bailey's about to tap, but out of the corner of your eye, you see Kevin Knight climbing to the top rope, and he comes in and lands the UFO splash onto both of them. Ow.
Yep.
But then takes Garcia and pins him and becomes your new TNT champion. I love this move.
Dropped one belt to win another.
Yes, and I love this move.
I do too.
Obviously, Tony has been very high on Knight. They have been pushing him, and I thought maybe we would get the heel turn before we ended up having him win a title, but you have to pivot, obviously, with Fletcher getting hurt. And I think you can still heel turn him while he has the title, because I think
they're setting up for it. Because
obviously he's been getting more cocky and arrogant as he's been winning certain things. And now that he's won this title to a certain extent, the expense of Speedball, I think he'll continue to increase his level of cockiness and probably get that heel turn eventually. So this is a great move to push a young guy, or further the push of a young guy you've been building up recently. And what was a very, very fun match.
I almost resent the fact that commentary, I think it was Shivani, mentioned the fact that we'll see how this affects their relationship. between Knight and Speedball, who Speedball was looking dejected on that mat.
Yeah.
While Knight is celebrating and getting his moment, Speedball looks emotionally defeated on the mat. So I think it's a matter of when, not a matter of if. But I don't know if you remember this or if you even watched it, but do you remember when Damian Sandow won Money in the Bank, and he did it by sort of like in the match betraying Cody?
Yeah, was that when they were the Rhodes Scholars?
Yes.
I remember him winning Money in the Bank. I forgot how he did it.
So Cody was about to win it. He was fighting somebody else for the briefcase, and then Sandow drops both of them, and then he goes up and gets it, and he wins.
Word.
And Cody then gets upset that he feels he got betrayed by Sandow, and he starts the feud with Sandow, and all it did was make Cody look like a whiny brat. He was supposed to be the babyface. He was supposed to be like the wronged partner, but he looked bad. Like he looked like a whiny loser. And as long as they don't lean into Speedball being upset that Knight did it, but Knight himself just becomes unbearable and intolerable, I think then you could pull this off.
Yeah.
So, because I don't want people to turn on Speedball for being whiny and a whiny loser.
Yeah, and I think the way to do it, Maria has a pretty good idea here, and I'm going to probably build off of it a little bit, that Knight will see Speedball as a threat to his title and turn on him. And I think the way you could probably do that is, Speedball will probably on Wednesday be like, yeah, man, like, I was in a tough spot there. Better you win it, though, than Daniel Garcia. So I'm happy for you. Like, go on, defend that title. And hey, like maybe I can get a shot at it one day. We could run back.
Yeah.
I think they had the C2 match together, right? Like we could run it back for the title. And Knight, could be like, oh, yeah, maybe at some point and whatever, and kind of just ignore him.
Yeah.
And try to duck him at every turn until, as Maria says, he just sees him as a threat and takes him out. And again, becomes more increasingly unbearable, as you mentioned. So great choice, as Maria said, in a match that was a lot of fun. And considering the fact that a week ago this wasn't planned, I think this was a great match from all these guys. I think it was a great pivot from Tony. And it should open up a lot of great storytelling opportunities for Knight and Speedball.
Yep.
Fernando calling Knight the modern pillar for AEW.
I'd agree. I'd say he's Speedball, Brody King, and I don't know who I put.
Bandito was there last year. He's kind of, I don't want to say cooled off, but Tony's not pushing him the same way. That being said, every time that man steps in the ring, everyone loves him, and he puts on a banger.
Yeah. No, but I'd agree on the Kevin Knight analogy.
Yeah, he's very young, so helping build him up, you're just setting yourself up for the future.
I was going through my Instagram. I just found the picture of you and me with him at Hog.
Yeah, I have it on my phone too. Yeah.
Yeah. Good showing. But yeah, fun match. Glad we have a new champion. Sad about how we got here, obviously with Fletcher, but I think they're gonna make chicken salad out of this chicken shit.
Yeah, I agree as well. Fernando asking what happens if we get a evil Mike Bailey, and this is something you've brought up, James, where Bailey isn't the best heel.
I think it's possible. I don't want to say he can't be a good heel, but Speedball's strength comes from his ring work and not his mic work. Like, I don't think he's a bad promo, but I don't think he's a particularly good promo. And you need to be a good promo to be a good heel. It's just how it is nowadays, unfortunately. It's very rare that you could be a great heel and not back it up on the microphone. So I think you're just fighting an uphill battle here by trying to make him the bad guy in this. So just keep him face, turn Knight heel, and I think you're going to be getting the best out of both of them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Knight, you can tell as I mentioned, is becoming more arrogant. You can tell he's going to be a pretty decent heel, or at least it looks like it. And let's be realistic here. The best promo that Speedball cuts is when he's trying to get Horsecock over. So, and you got to keep him face to do that. And I think that's probably the way you go there.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Next up, we had our AEW Women's World Championship match, which saw Thekla defend her title against Jamie Hayter.
Another one, explosive out the gate.
Yep. Before her entrance, Hayter crushed a beer with a recovering Alex Windsor in the back in their own little pub setup, which I thought was pretty cool.
Before putting on her neckerchief.
Yeah, with Windsor telling Jamie it was her turn to go out and win. I'm just going to throw out one cool spot that I wrote down. Thekla ducked a lariat and did her spider pose, and Jamie just went, "Fuck you," and grabbed her and hit her with a tombstone.
So this happened twice tonight, and I adored it, where we had wrestlers just disregard the taunt. It happened with Darby and Andrade, where Andrade did the rope pose.
The Tranquilo, yeah.
Yeah, and then Darby just dove through him. And then Hayter did it here with Thekla with the spider pose, and it warmed my heart in ways I just can't properly convey.
Yeah, you don't get to build up your finisher if you get taken out while you're doing your taunt.
Yeah, exactly.
I did love the square circle post for the Darby one. Is Darby is not Tranquilo. Shout out whoever titled that. To jump to the end here, after countering a spear and hitting a backbreaker onto Thekla, Hayter went for a Haterade, but Thekla was able to duck that. She then hit the ropes, but Hayter caught her and got her into a fireman's carry. So Thekla raked her eyes and then got Hayter into the bridging pinfall. And as the referee was counting 3 and looking directly at Hayter's shoulders, Thekla grabbed the rope for some extra leverage. And honestly, really just to rub it in Jamie's face because she wasn't getting out of that. And Thekla was able to retain her title. After the match, Windsor came down to protest, but obviously the referee wasn't going to overturn it. And Jamie was just screaming, "You motherfucker," at Thekla the entire time while she was just giving her the crybaby eyes. And then the Sisters of Sin came out to celebrate. So, James, this was a hard-hitting match. Like you said, they came out the gate. Yeah, they came out the gate early, and then Thekla, again, she kind of slowed it down a bit. And weirdly enough, I think that might have taken the crowd out of it a little. They reacted for the big moves, but not a lot of chanting, not a lot of applause during
it was quiet in between the spots, which was a bummer.
Yeah, which was unfortunate because this was a slobber knocker, I think, as I mentioned earlier.
It absolutely was.
And I really enjoyed it. I wish it got a little more love from the audience there.
For a show that unfortunately didn't have a lot of women's wrestling, we got more of it on the pre-show than I think we got on the main show.
Yeah. Well, I think this is not the only women's match on the main show. Yeah,
I think so. I think it was the women's tag, it was Kamille, and it was
Marina and Windsor.
Yeah. So all that was on the pre-show.
Yeah, so, and part of that I think is also to the way they decided to write Kamille returning and taking out.
Willow.
He wasn't able to defend her title tonight, so so you're taking away a women's title match right there.
Yeah, but regardless of anything, I think it's so weird because Hayter really does feel like time displaced. Where she was so essential to the women's division when she was the champion, and she so naturally and organically got over to a point that she earned that championship. And she's been so lost in the shuffle since coming back from her injury. The Brawling Birds team has done so much to reinvigorate her, but I can't picture her going and winning the women's title again at this point. Not anytime soon. I think anybody could be heated up, but where she is now, I thought it was almost miraculous that she got this title match. Thekla's obviously operating on a different level.
She's so fucking good.
She's nailed the character. She's nailed the work, the ring work. She's nailed so many aspects of who she is. And the crowd is responding the way they should. She's killing it. So this was a fun, stiff match between these two women. They did not hold back. I don't know who's primed for Thekla. I don't know who makes sense for Thekla moving forward. So strong match, but they're, I don't want to say they're booking themselves into a corner, but there's not a lot of options right now. I mean, we know who it's probably going to be.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I think you have to do it at All In.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously that this is going to, Maria's ears are going to perk up. It's Mercedes, and you probably have her come back and literally, I would think, in an effort maybe to try to turn her face. Obviously, she's going to be facing Thekla. You bring her up from the bottom, and she works her way to the top.
Well, I heard a really fun thing on Reddit, which was the last belt that she technically has is the Owen.
Is the Owen.
So
which she would have to give back. I don't know if you get to keep it or not, but it would be really, really funny that Tony literally was like, "No, I need it back. Come on."
So she enters the Owen to try and hold on to that belt. And that's where we sort of get like a John Moxley babyface turn like he had in the C2. So I don't know. It's coming. It's coming. And I think that's a hell of a feud.
Yeah, because I was gonna say Maria is right here. Yeah, I think that Mercedes is easily the plan for All In.
As she should.
Yeah. Danny, have a safe flight, dude. Be careful. We know it. I know what time it is, but we have to finish covering the show. That's part of the job. We'll get to bed when we can, or James will. You're right. I don't sleep. It's not a thing. But to get to his comment about the actual match here, Danny's saying Thekla is TK's new Tony / Mercedes. He'll always make time for her, even though the women don't get, or he says get no time. They don't get as much time as they should. I will put it that way.
Like, they've been getting time. It just feels way more spread out than it has been, Yeah.
Which I guess is, well, in terms of like per episode, or just like in terms of like
storylines.
Yeah, I guess. Because I was gonna say, like, I think them being spread out would be a good thing, like within the context of an episode. Like, I don't need all the women's things stacked on top of each other.
What I meant more so in terms of spread out was like, it doesn't feel like they're all getting equal time. It feels like everything is spread out to the point that, like, 1 week this is the major women's story, the next week is the other women's major story. Like, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I got you. So, yeah, I think I would agree with that. But luckily, Thekla, because she's world champ, she usually does something every week.
Yeah,
and that's good because she is getting incredibly over, and she's just got that it factor, man.
Yeah,
big
time.
Maria says Mercedes should just get a title shot for showing up. No, I think because she lost literally all of her titles, she's actually going to have to earn this one.
Yeah.
And like I said, that'll be good for her character. She hasn't really had to, I feel like, earn anything as this iteration of her character. In AEW, she kind of just showed up and immediately kind of went for the TBS title because she's fucking Mercedes, and then won that and held it for so long, had all the other titles, and she was so entitled, I guess pun slightly intended,
there,
that now she's actually going to have to earn things, and it's going to help turn her character into a face and end up going against Thekla.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more matches here. Speaking of the Owen, our next match was Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay for the AEW Continental Championship.
Wow,
my Owen comment will make sense in a bit. Some interesting notes from this. During the entrances, Excalibur talks about how Moxley and Renee are married for the first time in a while. And he was talking about how that might impact Ospreay's mindset heading into the match, considering Ospreay had threatened to break Moxley's neck, especially because Moxley broke his neck in front of his wife and his kid and his mother and his friends and his countrymen.
A heel like Renee wouldn't be phased.
Fair enough. But I thought that was very interesting that Excalibur actually brought that up seemingly for the first time on commentary, and he mentioned too, he's like, we don't really talk about this aspect of, Moxley too much here on commentary. Like, even though they do talk about it sometimes on other things, especially on stuff like, I think it was before All In, they had that like ride along thing where Renee was like interviewing Moxley, and she was like, "Why do we have to do it this way?" Yeah, we had that. Yeah. Like, she's done the in-depth interviews with the Death Riders when they started. Like, they've acknowledged it a couple of times, but it's mostly been on like almost online stuff or on pre-show stuff. This is the first time commentary has really talked about it.
Main TV.
Yeah, at least since the Death Riders. I think they kind of mentioned it when fucking Moxley and Eddie were kind of having the whole thing.
Yeah.
And with Claudio getting involved or whatever. But it's been a long time.
They've recognized on main TV that they're married. It's just not something they focus on. Okay. And it's for the best. I get it. It's hard because then it's hard to, like, I know I joke about her being heel, but like, it's hard to not talk about all the terrible things he's done and how she's just been like, not complicit, but like, she hasn't said anything. It kind of paints her in a bad picture if they openly identify them as a married couple all the time.
Yeah, and I think the character is just kind of her just being like, I'm not going to interfere in your career. Like, you do what you think is best, but like, what the fuck, John?
It's hard. Like, anything that happens in a ring for the most part is fair game. But when he was like trying to pour chemicals down Orange Cassidy's throat in the back, it's like, okay, yeah, everybody, like, we got to acknowledge this man might be just like a murderer. We got to, like, do we want him on the payroll?
Especially since Renee's friends with Orange.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Whatever. Wrestling. Anyway, this was probably the peak. This match started really fucking fast of all the matches tonight, because right off the jump, Ospreay decked Moxley with a hidden blade.
2 hidden blades.
Yes, he did hit the second one after he talked some shit.
That first one was great because you could see Mox was just like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Did he hit me? I think he hit me.
Yeah. And also, Ospreay was taking it to him for a while there too, until Moxley ended up dodging a kick where they had moved the steps, and Ospreay had the lower part of the steps on the side of the ring, and he had set Moxley's neck up towards the hollow part, and he went with a kick. Moxley dodged it and then hit a paradigm shift on the floor. Yeah, and that's where this match started slowing down. Yeah. Moxley's trying to grind it to a halt, and it picked back up depending on when Ospreay was making his comebacks and stuff.
Important to note, this match had a 20-minute time limit.
Yes. Which was very important, because I was with you. I thought this was going to go to a draw.
Yeah, I think it should have. I think this was silly.
Well, all right, we'll get into a minute. Some other notes of crazy ass things that happened. What was it? Ospreay using the jackknife cover, as I believe Excalibur called it, a feint to then get into the Styles Clash was wild. The Oz cutter counter into the paradigm shift and then into the hidden blade after Ospreay got hit with the paradigm shift was nuts as well.
Yep.
I also went on to note that Ospreay shoved over referee Paul Turner at one point as he was trying to get him out of the corner, just because he's so frustrated and wants to kill Mox. But he was nice and then helped him back up, and then Mox took his fucking head off. Yeah. Ospreay's, that is, not Turner's. To get to the end of the match here, though, Moxley and Ospreay were fighting on the outside, and Ospreay had said something big. Forgive me that I don't remember what it was, but Moxley had kicked out of it. So Ospreay brought him to the outside, back to the steps, and was going to try to hit the Tiger Driver 91 on there.
Was it the Styles Clash that he had hit?
Possibly.
Or is that after?
I know it was before this sequence, so I'm trying to remember if it was the Styles Clash that then led to him bringing Moxley to the steps. But as I mentioned, Moxley was able to get out of the Tiger Driver, so then he hit a paradigm shift on to the stairs. Moxley got in the ring. Turners began the count as Doc Samson was checking on Ospreay, and he barely beat the count back in. And right as he rolled in, Moxley hit him with a stomp.
Yep.
And then he hit him with 2 paradigm shifts, and Ospreay kicked out. So then Mox hit a Death Rider clean, and that was able to keep Ospreay down, and Moxley pinned him to retain his Continental Championship. So, as you mentioned, James, phenomenal match.
Amazing match. The action was great. The drama was great. Both men looked like stars, and they made it work in 18 minutes.
Yeah.
They made it work in 18 minutes.
I liked it went that long too, because I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna do this?" I was like, well, "How much time is left with the count out? Like, are we gonna get to draw here?" And so it actually became, a factor there, which was great.
One of my favorite things about the match too is it kind of continues a story trend, which is that Will Ospreay could sometimes be his own biggest enemy in terms of not being able to get the job done.
Yeah, which is something Moxley mentioned. He said,
Yes.
"I'm not going to beat Will Ospreay. Ospreay's going to beat himself," and he kind of did.
100%. He hits that first hidden blade, and he takes like a minute before he continues the assault on Mox.
Yeah, he's like, "How much time do I got left? You're in here for a long time now."
He just didn't have the killer instinct out the gate to put Mox down. And arguably it cost him. If he had followed up faster, if he brought the pain to him quicker, maybe he would have been able to beat him. We don't know.
I'm going to rephrase what you said. It's not that he didn't have the killer instinct. It's that he just wanted to inflict pain onto Moxley as opposed to just beating him. Yeah, exactly. And that cost him earlier in the match when Moxley dodged that kick on the steps and was able to hit the paradigm shift on the outside. And it ended up costing him in the end where, because Moxley wouldn't stay down in the ring, he got so frustrated that he wanted to hit the Tiger Driver on the stairs. And that was what ended up leading to his eventual demise.
Yeah. So I really did enjoy this. I'm personally, I think this should have gone to a draw. I don't know that Mox needed to just definitively pin Ospreay. I really don't think Ospreay needed a loss right now. So I wish this had played out differently. I think the draw would have done better, because you could still tell the same story about Ospreay not being able to get the job done because he played with his food. If it goes to a draw, he doesn't need to lose for that to happen. So a little bit of a bummer for me, because I'm assuming now the feud is just over, because what do you do? Do you have him win the title and then the Owen right away? Like, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need the Continental title.
So here's what I think is going to happen. And I just want to also throw, Maria thinks a draw would have been a cop-out. And I know she's a big proponent of that. And I thought it was going to go to a draw as well. But now I think I'm kind of starting to see the vision here, where I don't think Ospreay is going to win the Continental title. What I think is going to end up happening is Ospreay obviously is going to enter the Owen. I think Mox will as well. And they'll obviously be on other sides of the bracket. They'll each make it to the finals. Will gets his win back. And then he goes on to main event All In.
Do you then have Mox? Do you then have Mox lose the Continental title before the C2? Or do you have him take it back to the C2?
I could see him losing it before the C2. If you want it, you could do maybe, depending on who he's facing, you can maybe do a title change at All In. Like it depends. He can do all those things and still have the title, obviously, with the Owen and stuff. But I don't know what they would want to do with the title, but I think that's Ospreay's path right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think there's also the story there where Ospreay kind of not gets over himself, but he's able to
get out of his own way.
Yeah, get out of his own way, not be his own worst enemy, and actually go for the win as opposed to just trying to go for the pain.
We'll see. He is the obvious choice for Allin. He is the obvious choice to be the next real champion. Nothing against Darby, but we'll see. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Let's just go through it.
Yeah. So all I can think of now is to the death. No, to the pain. Like that's where Will was tonight.
Yeah.
It was to the pain, and it backfired on him. All right, last match we have to cover here was our World Trios Championship match. Now the Dogs, Clark Connors, David Finlay, and Gabe Kidd just won the titles on Friday. Well, Wednesday.
Saturday.
You know what it is. Saturday,
Yeah.
Thank you. See, I don't even know what day it is. They beat Mystico and Jet Speed for the World Trios Championships.
Who took the pin? Do you know?
I do not. I just because I forgot. Because I read it on Wednesday, so I didn't actually watch. And I was very excited about this, actually.
Yeah.
I thought with the Dogs having the titles was perfect. This is exactly what they need. Like, they need to help build the credibility. This is great.
Yep. I was like, okay, we're building to it. They're gonna have a good little run with the belts. We're gonna get them versus Bang Bang Gang. It's gonna be great.
Yep.
This I feel was like I would have rather they just didn't win the belts.
I concur.
A day reign is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a day. Yeah. It's Saturday.
Like I know they won it on Wednesday, but it's going to be recognized as a 1 day reign because it was Collision.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, and we'll talk about why in a second. But let's talk about the Conglomeration and their entrance.
Yeah, that was great.
As I'm sure most of you have seen, they have that entrance video where they're basically doing a sitcom intro, and so they had a little sitcom living room set up on the stage. And Roddy came in through the door, and he woke up Orange, who was under a blanket on a couch sleeping. And Orange goes, 5 more minutes, Mom, when Roddy wakes him up. And Roddy goes, no, he's going to be here any minute. And then we get a knock at the door. And who should appear but their surprise third member, a returning cool Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle's back from his neck injury, thankfully. I honestly wasn't expecting it. Now, apparently they teased it on Collision, but what you were telling me about his neck, I thought he was going to be out for a long while.
We had just gotten a report that his neck injury was, legit and severe. It's why he's been gone. And I was like, okay, we're not getting Kyle back for God knows how long, but pleasant surprise.
You got worked by the dirt sheets, man.
That I did.
So Kyle comes in and goes, hey, did anybody say Conglomeration? And Roddy and Orange are like, no, nobody did. Neither of us did. And then he just jims the camera with the goofiest little smirk and just goes, Conglomeration. And then the music hits and they head down to the ring. And then the Dogs do their entrance, and obviously there wasn't enough time to take the set down, so they come in and start trashing it. They knock the door over. Connors puts his belt on the couch and starts humping the belt. And then Gabe Kidd turns around and takes a piss on it. The couch, that is.
Yeah.
Which, gonna be curious to see the side angle and to see how they did that one.
The man simply relieved himself on the couch. It's that simple.
Anyway, both perfect entrances for both of these teams using the same set. Well done to whoever thought all of that up. Okay, so here's what happens at the end of this match. Kyle gets the hot tag, and he comes in and he starts clearing house. There's a problem, though. There's only 2 guys he has to clear out because Gabe Kidd got hurt. I didn't see where. I haven't gotten a chance to go back and look, but
supposedly he has a separated shoulder.
Yeah, I heard dislocated, separated. I know Fightful was reporting like he was holding his wrist on the way out.
Yeah.
Probably try to keep his arm in place. I think Meltzer was the first person to say dislocated shoulder. So not great. Well, again, we're still waiting for some reports on that. Obviously, we haven't really had a chance to look while we've been doing this, but hopefully he gets better quickly. That being said, that did throw a huge wrench into this match. So Kyle gets the hot tag. As I mentioned, he's cleaning house. And eventually he hit Finley with a dragon screw in the ropes, and that sent him to the outside. And then he hit Connors with one in the middle of the ring, and then transitioned that into the ankle lock. So then Finley comes back in and he tries to break it up. And I don't know if he was supposed to get hit with an orange punch or not, but either way, it missed.
He took it. Yeah.
Or he just ate it. And then he tries to get in a choke on Kyle from behind us, because Kyle's standing in the ankle lock. But then Roddy came in with the knee and knocked Finley to the outside. And with no one else there to help him, Connors is then forced to tap out. And we have new AEW World Trios champions in the Conglomeration, which Orange reacted to in the funniest way.
He could not believe it.
To the point where I thought, like, maybe this was an audible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of obvious speculation with Kid getting hurt, whether or not this was planned or if they called it on the fly here. And Orange's reaction, it almost like he was like, we won? Wait, we won? We won? So, like, part of me was like, maybe that was a change in plan. The other part of me, considering they were saying everything about Kyle coming back, it's in his hometown of Vancouver. Apparently, his father just unfortunately passed.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff kind of seems to line up that they were going to win this. If that is true, I think it's a terrible idea.
I get them not wanting to take the titles directly off of Jet Speed and Mystico.
Yeah.
I get that, but my God. Like, I've been saying it. I've been saying this to you and everybody who will listen that have had high hopes for the Dogs. It was very clear that the Dogs were introduced to be a mid-card heel act. And that doesn't mean they can't climb up the ranks and become a main event heel act. But it's very clear where they're being positioned right now is mid-card. And that's fine. You need that. Like, you can't have every group be at the top because then there's no depth. But this just it takes all the wind out of their sails. Like, there is they look, I don't know. They look pretty bad in my opinion, and it sucks.
Yeah, they look awful. And I mean, look, if this was planned, it's even worse. Yeah, and obviously, like, with Kid going down, it sucks, and it's gonna really, I don't want to say hamper them, but they're obviously gonna have to change their plans for them for a while. I would imagine they end up in the tag team division.
One of the good things there is never a good thing about somebody getting hurt, obviously, but if there is a good thing to come out of him possibly getting hurt, they at least have the excuse as to why they lost the titles.
Yeah, it was a 3-on-2 situation. Yeah,
and it'll give them, when he comes back, a God willing, it's not that bad of an injury. If it's a separated shoulder, we're probably looking at like 2 to 3 months. If it's a dislocated shoulder, depending on the severity, my
you
God,
pop that sucker back in and get back out there.
No, don't do it, Gabe. Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't make mistakes.
Don't actually do that. We do not offer medical advice here at the Market Down Podcast. We are not doctors. Do not listen to us.
I'm traumatized right now.
I do think maybe the one good thing from the Conglomeration winning the titles is, hopefully, especially considering it's Orange and Kyle, we'll see about Roddy and how he feels about it, but hopefully they'll be fighting champions as faces, and we get more trios title defenses, whether it's on Collision or Dynamite. Either way, just don't have somebody defend those fucking titles, Tony. Yep. I feel like they've been on ice for a while, and then they've kind of been props in some other storylines, but now it feels like they're in a situation where you have a group of guys who, I mean, their storyline was with the Dogs. Yeah. And now that seemingly has ended, both due to the fact that they, overcame and beat them for the titles, and you're missing one of the Dogs, and it drastically changes the dynamics. So, considering they don't have anything else to do, and everyone will be happy if you just run out Orange, Roddy, and Kyle every week and watch them defend titles in cool matches.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, I know Willow's doing it, but open challenge anyone or just book cool trios matches for a while. Have them face like Top Flight and Scorpio Sky. Have them. Or I know it's face on face, but that'd be a good one. Just have them face any trio. Who cares?
The Rascals.
Have them face the Rascals.
Bang, whoever.
Maybe the Ops get it together at some point.
I don't know what the hell's going on there. That's
they're recruiting Bowens. That's all I really know. All that's happening on Collision.
Maybe.
Bowens. They're not recruiting Bowens. They're scouting him, and Bowens is trying to prove his worth.
Yeah,
I think is more of the storyline there. But yeah, it's a shame. Like, this was a fun match, and like I feel like it's gonna the injuries kind of taking the piss out of Kyle's return and everything. So it's really hard to truly comment on this match in a proper way until we get the full story.
I think the bigger thing is
it's an incomplete.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think the bigger thing here too is Kyle was being set up for something major before he had to leave.
Yeah.
He had beaten Mox, twice?
Yep, tapped him out both times.
And
he was going to beat him the first time, and then Mox grabbed the ref or whatever to DQ it, and then he tapped him out, and then he tapped him out again.
Yeah.
Not to mention he tapped him out in Blood and Guts.
Yeah. It's a shame that that's just going to get dropped, because more than anything, I would have rather he just take the Continental title off of Mox. But what can you do?
At least we know, though, that he is keeping that ankle lock, and they're going to protect it.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
That's what he finished Mox with, and he finished Connors with it tonight. So he's got that in his pocket, and it's something he's going to use to finish matches and hopefully win.
Yeah,
and keep the titles. I am very happy for those guys, by the way.
Yes, yeah, we're happy for them while simultaneously being sad for the dogs.
Yeah, and just disappointed in general. That these guys weren't able to properly do what they wanted to do tonight.
Yeah.
All right, but James, that was Dynasty, not Revolution. Nick, you forgot to change that. It was Dynasty. Like I mentioned earlier, almost every match on this card was good to great.
Yes.
It missed, I don't know, it was like mixing that sixth gear, I feel like, which is weird because I don't want to be like, oh, this was bad, because it wasn't, but I can't.
We're spoiled.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is.
I also think beyond being spoiled in terms of quality, because again, I'm with you. This was a good to great show overall in terms of the wrestling and everything. Outside of Night, and arguably, I guess, the trios match, but again, we've discussed how it's sort of mired by like the sad stuff. Outside of Night winning the TNT title, nothing major felt like it happened.
Not too much move forward story.
Exactly. No forward momentum really existed from this. So arguably, I guess Darby.
That would be the one thing.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I enjoyed the show. I am very happy I watched the show. Despite being sad that Kenny lost, I enjoyed the main event a lot. I just think that we needed a big wow moment that I don't know that we really got.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, too, almost every heel won tonight, and like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the heels currently hold the titles in AEW.
Yeah.
Jack is one of the few faces who has a title right now, and everybody who defended their title tonight retained except for the dogs, and again, that was mired with the injury. So the wrestling was unbelievable. It's just whatever reason we didn't have like a big wow moment storyline wise.
Yeah.
And admittedly, the matches, they didn't hit 6 stars instead of 5, and like, God forbid that we have one pay-per-view where we don't have a 6-star match. Although I think Dave is going to absolutely fall in love with the main event.
Yeah, I think so.
It seems very Meltzer coded.
Yeah.
But like you said, I'm glad I stayed up and watched it. I'm glad I paid for it, or my brother paid for it. Thanks, Matt. But It's just going to be one where I think people are going to be like, not forget it, but it's going to kind of get lost in the annals, and then at some point, 10 years from now, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh no, yeah, no, that was good. Like, it was very underrated. Like, there's a lot of good matches. It's just nothing happened."
I could see that for sure.
Yeah, but great wrestling, great show, and I enjoyed it very much, even though I was exhausted the entire time.
Oh, I'm not awake right now. Let's wrap this up.
Which is why we're going to thank everybody for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. We would appreciate it if you liked and subscribe. If you liked the video, let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing here on the show, and we can continue to do it. And if you subscribe, continue to get all the great stuff here on the channel. I don't know if we're doing Raw tomorrow. I know it is the last Raw, I think, before WrestleMania.
What I'll tell you is I'm going to try.
Okay, so if you guys are, WWE fans, you want to hear us talk about some stuff as we get closer to Mania weekend, you can check us out tomorrow on Monday. Obviously, if you subscribe, you can see whether or not we actually go live or not. We will be back on Wednesday for Dynamite. We'll see about Friday with SmackDown, but it's Friday. Obviously, Thursday is the Gym Pack Zone. It's also Thursday. For you TNA fans. I know James covered their pay-per-view the other night, and you guys can talk all about the fallout from that coming up later this week. And we will be covering WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday. We will see who will be on. I know somebody is going on WrestleMania Sunday now.
I don't know what my life is. I will be here with you on Saturday for sure.
Awesome. And then I'm sure we'll probably have Matt
he's doing a watch party that he's going somewhere in the city. So you got to bully either Danny or Nick or somebody.
Chad once a year for WrestleMania. I don't know. Maybe I'm riding solo dolo on Sunday. We'll see. But we will be covering both nights of WrestleMania and all of its commercials. If you want to follow us on any of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Blue Sky. If you're here on YouTube, you can check out those links in the description below. If you're watching over on Twitter or Facebook or somewhere else that I don't even know how we're streaming to, and you want to follow us in some other places, Twitter is at @marketdown_pod. Instagram is at marketdownpod. YouTube.com /@marketdownpod or /marketdown3665. Blue Sky is marketdownpod.bsky.social, or just search Marketdown Podcast on your social media platforms, and you will be able to find us there. James, you got anything else before we get out of here and go to bed?
Goodbye and good night. Bang.
For somebody who's lower third said you were speechless, you did talk a lot.
I did. I did what I could. We're a tag team.
Yes. Hey, they need some more depth in the division. So for my tag team partner, James Asante, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good one, everyone.